Hey English 1102 folks, this is a short video going through a couple of the family and community poems. We're going to go through My Daughter at the Gymnastics Party by David Bottoms. David Bottoms is a Georgia writer. He's still alive. He lives north of Atlanta, teaches at Georgia State. So we're going to go through My Daughter at the Gymnastics Party, his poem. And then Working Late by Lewis Simpson. Lewis Simpson died in 2012. He is a poet from the Caribbean, and you can see that in this poem, which mentions Port Royal, which is a city in the Caribbean, in the Caribbean islands. So we'll start with Working Late because it's a little more complex. You kind of have to put the pieces. The thing that both of these poems have in common is that they are about parents and children seeing each other and one another and sort of becoming your parent or your child becoming you, or that kind of generational. You see that cycle or that repetition of behavior in generations. In Working Late, the speaker in the poem realizes he has sort of become like his dad. They both like to work late at night. They're both night people who stay up late working. So you see that in Working Late. The speaker, a light is on in my father's study. So he's at his parents' house. He sees the light on. His dad's still up working. Still up, he says. And we are silent, looking at the harbor lights. There's that island, Port Royal. You know, they're in the Caribbean. Looking at the harbor lights, listening to the surf and the creak of coconut boughs. So, you know, it's late at night. The world is quiet. They can hear the wind and the waves in the ocean. The branches of the coconut trees. He is working late on cases. You find out the dad's a lawyer and has always been a lawyer even when the speaker was a kid. No impassioned speech, he argues from evidence. Actually pacing out and measuring while the fans revolving on the ceiling winnow the true from the false. They got the ceiling fans going. Once, and then you get this scene that sometimes confuses students, this stanza. Once he passed a brass curtain rod through a head made out of plaster and showed the jury the angle of fire. Y'all have seen these accident reconstructions or crime reconstructions where they'll like show where somebody must have been standing to shoot somebody or recreate a car accident. What he's talking about here is how the dad once made like a skull out of plaster and then stuck a curtain rod through it to show how the angle that somebody must have been shot at. Showed the jury the angle of fire where the murderer must have stood to shoot the victim. For years, all through my childhood, if I opened a closet, bang, there would be the dead man's head with a black hole in the forehead. So after the trial's over, the dad brings the skull home, and it, you know, for the whole rest of the speaker's childhood, he'll go to, you know, get a board game out of the closet or get a beach towel out of the closet, and there's that head falling out. You know, where things go after trials are over. And then we're back to working late at night. And the flashback here is very clearly this, how hard the dad works and how the dad stayed up late, you know, to make the skull one time. All the arguing in the world will not stay the moon. She has come all the way from Russia. You know, the moon, just like the sun, rises in the east, sets in the west. So to the east, if you're in the islands, you know, there's not any land, so it looks like it came from Russia. She's come all the way from Russia to gaze for a while in the mango trees. So now you're getting the moonlight through the trees. And like the wall of a veranda before resuming her interrupted journey beyond the harbor and the lighthouse at Port Royal. So the moon is rising and setting as they're up late working, turning away from land to the open sea. So again, if you're on an island in the Caribbean, it looks like the moon rises on one side of the sea and then sinks back into the ocean. Yet nothing in nature changes from that day to this. And here's where the poem really sort of hits you with its overall idea. Nothing in nature changes from that day to this. She is still the mother of us all, mother of everybody who's up late at night, up working. I can see the drifting offshore lights, black posts where the pelicans brood, and the light that used to shine at night in my father's study now shines as late in mine. So the speaker has become like his dad. They're both night people who are staying up late at night working. So this is really just about how he remembers his dad staying up late, and now he has sort of joined him in that behavior. You get almost a reverse of the same scenario in my daughter at the gymnastics party, because in this case you have a parent watching his daughter and watching his daughter behave the way he did when he was a kid. Just like all kids do, you take risks and you don't worry about getting hurt or getting injured. Of course, if you're the parent, you're worried about all the way your kids might get hurt, and you're thinking about other kids who've gotten hurt and thinking, oh God, please don't let that happen to my child. And so the speaker in this case is the parent watching his child, but also thinking about his parent, his mom, who used to have to watch him do dangerous things where he might get hurt. When I sit for a moment in the bleachers of the lower school gym to watch, one by one, the girls of my daughter's kindergarten climb the fat rope hung over the styrofoam pit. Y'all have seen this. You probably did it in gym class, where they get you climbing up that rope. They've got some kind of pad or pit or foam or something under it. And all the kids are taking turns climbing this rope, seeing how high they can climb on the rope. And he's watching these kids climb this rope. And I remember the my sweet exasperated mother, and those shifting faces of injury that followed me like an odor to ball games and practices, playgrounds and monkey bars, trampolines. And so he thinks about all the dangerous things his mom had to watch him do, baseball games and baseball practices and monkey bars that you could fall off of, and trampolines, where millions of kids have gotten hurt on trampolines. Those wilted children sprouting daily in that garden of trauma behind her eyes. And so he knows now how his mom watching him must have worried and imagined all the ways he could get hurt, because that's what he's doing now as he watches these kids, and he's about to watch his own kid. Then Rachel's turn, the daughter. The smallest child in class, of course, the little kid who could just get hurt so easily. And up she went, legs twined on the rope, ponytail swinging. So he just watches his daughter go higher and higher. 15, 20, 25 feet. The pink tendrils of her leotard climbing without effort until she'd cleared the lower rafters. And so this little girl has climbed, she's super high up. She looked down, then up, hanging in that balance of pride and fear, then glancing toward the bleachers to see if I watched. You know what all kids have to do when they're doing something kind of dangerous or wild. They got to look and be sure their parents watching. Let go her left hand. And so then his daughter gets as high as she can get, and she doesn't climb back down. She just lets go, because she's like, oh, it'll be so cool, it'll be so fun to just fall into all the styrofoam. And meanwhile, the dad is thinking, unworried by that boy with the waffled skull stiff and turning blue under the belly of a horse, or the Christmas Eve skater on Kegel's Lake, her face a black plum against the bottom of the ice. So she lets go, and she makes sure her dad's watching, and then she lets go and is like, oh, this is going to be so cool, it's going to be so fun. And when she lets go, the dad immediately thinks of other kids who have gotten hurt in different ways. This kid who fell through the ice and drowned on a lake, kid who fell and got trampled by a horse, and he's just thinking about all the ways kids can get hurt. Meanwhile, his daughter, the child, of course, is not worried at all, just like he used to not be worried when his mom was watching him and worrying about him. So it's almost like he has taken his mom's place, and his daughter has taken his place in this poem, because now the daughter is the one out there having fun, not worried about stuff like this, and he's the one watching and worrying just like his mom used to. So both of these poems, you get this image of, parents sort of taking the place our children taking the place of their parent in that case. And in this specific case, he takes the place of his mom by watching his own child. So you get this looking in both directions, looking back at his mom, looking at his child. I hope that helps you understand my daughter at the gymnastics party and working late, and sort of see that connection or those connections between them. As always, if you've got questions about either of these, or you want to read more of David Bottom's poems, especially since he's from Georgia and a lot of his writing is set in Georgia, just be in touch, and hopefully that's helpful to you. Thanks.